Hey guys, welcome back to the Drake and Josh podcast. He's Drake, I'm Josh. This is Megan. Just kidding, not Megan. This is Megan. This is Adalie, and she's here going to join us on a topic of social media. And so this is a pretty interesting topic here. It's kind of like a hot topic. We're on social media right now, but we're going to talk about positives and negatives, and just kind of either our experiences, maybe things to look out for. So, do you have a random fact about yourself?
Random fact about me. Don't put me on the spot. I was homeschooled. We were all homeschooled.
Homeschooled.
We just figured out we were all homeschooled. So.
Cyber schooled, so not as bad.
Homeschooled.
He was homeschooled. The point is,
Did your
that we were
mom
sheltered.
teach you?
Yes.
Books.
My dad.
No.
Bro, no.
No. Get out of here.
I'm just kidding.
Just kidding. You're part of our squad. It's fine.
Exactly. Squad. So the so you Adalie, you've written like a paper on social media, and this has kind of been something that you feel passionately about.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us just kind of, I don't know, a brief overview, or maybe just one of your top things about social media? Also, I know that you're not really on social media, so you can kind of talk about just maybe reasons for that, or...
Sure. So, I'll just give you like a brief overview of like my relationship with social media. So obviously, like when you're 12 years old, Instagram is like sick, you want to get Instagram. So my parents were like really hesitant to let me get social media at first, but I convinced them to let me have Instagram and social media. And then had it for a few years, realized, opened my eyes to the negative effects of it. So deleted social media. And then last year during quarantine, I had a lot of time to think about, what I've learned in the past, and staying off of social media has taught me a lot of things. So I wrote down this whole long tangent.
She came prepared.
I literally came prepared. Also in college, I wrote a 8-page speech on it and got an A. So
Where'd you go to college?
And it wasn't an A+, though, was it?
you know what? Mind your
Just
own
an A, imagine. Oh my goodness.
business.
We're high achievers here, so...
Yeah, exactly.
we don't
Drake's
need-
only failed once, as if you listen to the last podcast.
Yeah.
He's only dropped out once and then rejoined.
Only
and
dropped
then
out.
Drop out again.
Yikes. What do you go to college for?
Undeclared major. I'm not.
Gotcha.
I'm like just doing my gen eds, but I work in real estate, so
okay.
I have Facebook now just for like networking purposes.
Networking, very serious.
But I try to stay off of social media as much as possible. Like I don't have it on my phone. It's only on my laptop. So just trying to have a healthy relationship with social media.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So, did you mention kind of why you? Because there are particular reasons. We talked about this before we started the podcast, but there's particular reasons and kind of issues that you realized maybe you were acting differently with.
Right.
Yeah. So what kind of was some of the primary things with that?
So when you're like 15, 14, obviously a young girl, like I spent a lot of my time as like a young child not really caring about what I look like, and honestly not really feeling like pretty, I guess.
Okay.
And then when I hit puberty, like 13, 14, 15, I started to realize, oh, okay, like I was getting attention on social media that I wasn't getting attention before.
Okay.
So I guess like that hit some sort of like dopamine effect in my mind, and I purposely do things to take pictures to post so I could like get that dopamine hit and get that attention. So another one, just addiction, like always being on it. It just numbs your brain. Like it's just something to numb your mind and not face your problems. You just scroll.
Absolutely, yeah. And I've found with myself on Instagram, for instance, I very recently unfollowed like everyone except for like 10 people, right? And the primary reason, the primary reason for it is not that I don't care or I don't want to like keep up with different people, right? It's just that I was following so many people that I'd go in and just scroll. It's like I'm just eating up so much of my time. And also, this is something that you brought up as well, is that I was finding myself that I would kind of vicariously sort of keep up with these people and live through their lives, but I wouldn't actually reach out and communicate with those people, right? Like I wouldn't try to...
Isn't that weird?
It is really weird.
You can literally know everything about someone's relationship on social media and then
really
never talk to them in person. Know every single thing about their relationship but never have that interaction with them in person. It's so weird.
So Drake,
Yes.
Hi, Drake.
You were just referenced here. Have you unfollowed a lot of people?
Yeah, I recently on Facebook, I went through and I unfriended like a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
Because I just was seeing so much crap. The only person I should really unfollow my brother.
Stop.
Look, I love the guy, but it's just a barrage of political commentary that's not entirely necessary all the time. But getting that from him, it's
you better watch out. He's gonna put a whole rant on Facebook.
It's my brother, you know. But for other people, it's like, why do I care about what this guy, this random dude from Lancaster who I know through a mutual friend has to say about these issues? Like, I don't care, and you're just pissing me off, so I'm just going to unfriend you. So that's basically what I did, and I just unfriended, like, a couple hundred people. Mm-hmm. I also did the same thing back when I had Instagram for a while, and I got up to, like, 1,000-some followers, and I was posting a good bit, and I just got really frustrated with it. But then I'd also, like, kept my follower count down to 100. So, like, when I would follow someone new, I would go and unfollow someone else, be like, who do I like the least? And go and unfollow them. And then I deleted Instagram for a really long time, and I just got it back specifically because I was like, okay, I'm going to be doing the podcast, and I'm going to be doing a lot of projects throughout this year, so I figured I wanted some type of platform to be able to talk about that stuff. And I do post on Facebook every now and then, but Facebook has been a different thing for me because, I don't know, I don't get that much, like, of a reaction on Facebook a lot of times, and for me, it's literally just to, like, put something out there that I care about, and that's the type of stuff that I like to see. Like, if somebody cares about music and they want to play guitar, all they post is stuff about guitar. I think that's fantastic. Like, they have something they care about and they're creating content. What I don't like, I hate selfies. Like, I really do. I'll go on somebody's page, or somebody will follow me, and I'll look on their page, and the only thing,
someone's guilty.
The only thing they have ever posted is just pictures of themselves, and it's not pictures of themselves doing stuff. Like, I posted pictures of myself before, at shows or doing whatever, and that stuff I think is cool, and I see people out, like, traveling, and, you know, they're out with their friends and stuff like that, but people who literally will just look in their mirror and take a picture of themselves, and that's the only content they create on their platform, it just kind of irks me, because it's like, you have to have things you care about, things you want to create, things that you do, like even just seeing your friends out with friends, like, that's nice. Like, hey, you're like, oh man, I should go hang out with my friends. Like, that's cool. But just seeing pictures, just somebody who has nothing else to, like, do with their life other than just, and I know this is, you know, a little harsh, but just taking pictures of themselves and posting it when they don't have any, like, content to create or message to share. And there are people that'll post a picture of themselves and with a whole, like, super long paragraph about their, you know, struggles
mental
with
health journey.
Yeah, that, or like you know, anorexia or weight loss or weight gain or whatever the heck. And I think that's great. Like, putting that out there, and being vulnerable and whatnot, I think is a really valuable thing. But
Adding on to that, I think it's really interesting that you can tell how secure or insecure a person is based off of what they post on social media.
Yes.
So if, for instance, like, if you're posting about, you know, if you wake up and you're like, ooh, I think I look cute today, and you post a picture of yourself in the mirror, it's only selfies, you can really tell how insecure that person is, because if you're only putting content of yourself, your looks, you're looking for people to validate you, and when you should be validating yourself, but not with other people's, like, likes and comments and stuff. So, I mean, if you're posting a picture of yourself, that's great, and if there's, like, a long paragraph about your struggles and where you've been and how you are, like, that's a secure person. But you can tell when someone is struggling with, like, their self-image, because they will only post content about themselves seeking that praise.
That makes a lot of sense.
I wouldn't even call it content, though.
No,
I don't get the thing. Like, if I do something cool, I'll be like, oh, take a picture of it. If I'm out with my friends, take a selfie with them, or I'm hanging out with somebody, you know, whatever. Like, but I just don't get, like, the, oh, it's golden hour. I gotta get the, like, the my window shades with the like the lines across my face, or I gotta go out with the mirror and, you know, I'm sorry.
You're literally calling. Wow, you're really coming from here.
It's just something that I at least see, and I'm just like. I just think it creates this weird dynamic. Especially another thing I talked about before this is like a lot of fakeness of people, like the comments that I see. And so when I get a comment on a post that I make, because I don't post very often, if I get a comment, it's usually pretty genuine. Like it's somebody saying, oh wow, that, you know, piece of music, like if I put something on my story, oh wow, that sounds really good, you know, cool. And I'm like, thank you, that's awesome, like I really appreciate that. Or if I post a thing of the podcast and someone says something, you know, usually that means something. Whereas there's so many girls on social media, and I just think it's different because guys, it's a different culture with guys on social media, but with girls, like posting selfies, and there's like 30 comments, and they're all like freaking the most generic cut and paste, like queen, oh my gosh, most beautiful girl ever.
Not me saying queen to my friends every single day.
and I'm not like, I guess that's like you're trying to empower people or something like that, but you're not making a genuine effort when it's just like you see the same person comment the same thing on 100, you know, girls posts or whatever, just selfies of them. Right. And I guess but I feel like it's toted around as this like females empowering females thing, and maybe to some degree it is, but I also think especially when there's like the roles are reversed, and I'm not trying to sound like too mean here, but you'll see somebody and you'll be like, okay, this person is very attractive. Somebody posts a picture and they're not quite on that level, and you have this other person saying, oh my gosh, you're the most beautiful girl in the world. Why are they saying that? Like, are they what are they getting from that versus what is the person that's receiving that comment getting from it? I personally would think that like if I'm like this again, I hate, like, I feel like this is a touchy subject because you need to be confident and you need to like, you know, like literally your attractiveness for most people, you know, of course it has to do with like your health and stuff like that. But a lot of times your facial structure or whatever, like that's how you're born. And unless you get, you know, plastic surgery or something, like you have to learn to be confident with yourself and happy and whatever. So I'm not trying to negate any of that. But I think there's just better ways. It seems very disingenuous.
No, absolutely. I agree with it being disingenuous. I think that the intent, like you said, is to like empower other females. But so that's the intent. But I think that, you know, just with it coming across disingenuous, I think that's one of the reasons why so many people are so hungry for the likes and for the attention, and they're trying to post about things to try to sort of like quell that desire within them to be either noticed or maybe have some sort of I don't know, not fame but recognition, you know, of just something like that. And also something I think that a positive that can come from the whole "wow, you're so beautiful" is that if someone becomes positive enough to take care of themselves more, right? There's so many examples of people that like they just believe that they're so ugly, and because of that they don't take care of themselves. They'll just walk around with greasy hair and, you know, clothes that are super wrinkly or whatever. And, you know, that's it. Just by doing those simple things. I totally agree with the whole like how you're born, facial structure, all that. But you can go from very low on the totem pole as far as, you know, the worldly attraction type thing, you know, with those standards, to much, much better by literally just taking a shower, shaving if you're a guy or a girl, and I'm just saying that, you know, there's just, you could really, really move up from that. So I think that's a benefit, but I also think that it would be so much more beneficial if it wasn't so disingenuous, if it was so much more authentic.
Because it just seems like it's like this cut and paste thing where all these, there's like these, I don't know how many particular responses there are, but it's like queen, or like you're so beautiful, or like, oh my gosh, literally, how are you this gorgeous? And what I see is, okay, if there's someone like, you know, if someone is commenting on your post and you know that they're significantly more just like physically attractive than you are, but they're saying, oh my gosh, you're the most beautiful girl in the world, or whatever, right? How does that come across subconsciously for the person receiving it and for the person giving that compliment? I feel like maybe for the person giving that compliment, that's a little bit of an ego trip because they know that in reality, they're a more attractive person. Right. So they like get this hit out of being able to do that. I know there was a guy that I used to be friends with, and we would go to martial arts competitions, right? And when he would win a trophy, he would just go and like try and give it away to some random person, right? Because he's like, oh, I have so many of these, you take it, you know?
What the
saying from a
like
that's
gaslighting.
but saying from a point of like
my name on
humbleness.
it.
But I'll just.
But like
I'm
he
really
wouldn't necessarily say that, but
amazed.
he'd say it to me. He's like, I have so many of these. I'm just gonna go give it away, right? And I think that doesn't come from a point of humbleness. It's not him being like, hey, it's not about the trophies. It's him being like, oh yeah, these are worthless to me because I have so many, so I'm gonna give them away.
Yeah.
You know, like is it maybe a similar mentality? Not just in being like, yeah, I know that I'm a lot hotter than this person, but I'm gonna go like empower them or whatever. But is that really what you're doing?
I don't know. I think it depends on the person, and that's honestly what you were saying. Like when someone is, visibly not. I mean, everyone's attractive in their own way. Don't get me wrong. Like everyone has beauty to them, but if someone is not really physically beautiful, like someone commenting on their post, "Oh my gosh, you look so pretty today," like that might change their whole perspective and like their life. So I have here written down in my notes, like you can use your platform for self-praise or you can use your platform as an outlet to help others. And I think a lot of people, will use it for self-praise just to like get likes and comments, but you can create positivity and spread positivity through doing that.
I do think though that it's those more like personal and genuine interactions. Like for me, if I post something on my story or something like that and someone wants to like message me about it, it seems like it's more sort of them going out of their way about it, or like, I don't know, like a private interaction I think means a lot more than just if it literally just matters like if you're popular. Like if you're a popular person, whether you're attractive or you're unattractive and you're a girl and you post a selfie, you're gonna have like a whole like swarm of other girls commenting about how beautiful and stunning and whatever you are. And I just feel like maybe it's not quite as positive as people think it is. And a more genuine interaction, like when you see that person in public, you message them and say, hey, we should go out to lunch or something.
Yeah.
And then you go out to lunch and you say, girl, you look so pretty right now. Like, it just as a friend or whatever. That's going to mean so much more to that person than 50 of the same people or 30 of the same people that comment the exact same cut and paste, praise comments that don't really have genuine meaning behind them. Because they post that on every single person's thing. That's something, like, it's different, but Jordan Peterson talks about how you can't force respect. Like, respect is something that you hand out, and it's something that somebody has to earn. So if you can't say you have to respect everyone. You have to treat everyone with decency, but, like, respect is something, like compliments aren't something that you just they don't mean anything if you hand them out endlessly and to everybody.
That is true.
I want to clarify something real quick, because although I do think that we're touching on a very needed subject right now, I also know that this can be taken the wrong way, because especially when it comes to something where this is something that's a very sensitive topic for someone, their physical appearance.
Sure.
So when it comes to like people's value, for instance, like everyone is a unique, spiritual, loving person, right? And they are all on sort of the same equal level as far as being humans, right?
Sure.
We're all fantastic creatures. That's awesome.
We're part
of
one race, the human race.
Yeah, exactly. And and I think that's an important preface to make, because people can get so caught up with their physical appearance being their
only value.
Exactly. And so when somebody feels like, oh hey, like maybe your hair was like off part or something like that, and someone points it out, and that's something that they're super sensitive about.
Facetune.
Then they feel like that is an affront to them as a person, not just how their hair was that day, right? So I think that can be a very sensitive thing. Sure. I also kind of want to bring this to maybe more positive avenue of, we've talked about sort of the negatives of this types of interactions going on social media. But what do you guys think is a better alternative to some of these comments? Because they are well intentioned a lot of the times. I don't think that there's a lot of malicious behavior, and I think that Drake is right on.
I don't think it's malicious. I think it's subconsciously really
exactly.
People.
It is. I do think it's subconsciously screwing with people, and I think that it's well intentioned. But I think that there's something better that we can do with it, right? What do you guys think?
Directly to what you were just saying, there's somebody that I follow on social media that I know objectively is just like less physically attractive than I am. They're not in as good a shape and whatever. but they are the most genuine, creative human being, and
You're gonna come across as like the biggest asshole.
I know. But we're talking.
You're being real.
They're not as physically attractive as I am. They're not.
I'm not. No, but I see them as like their spiritual, like just how the energy they put out into the world, and it's so much better than mine. And I'm like, I love that so much. And they're not out there just posting selfies, trying to get people to comment on them. They're like creating and being genuine, and it's an amazing thing to see. And nobody's sitting there like judging them for that. Like they're doing something creative and something amazing, and I look at that. But that's like, we talked about how there's give and take with everything. Like somebody might not have some certain thing that you have, like we talked about in the last episode, but they're gonna have something that you don't have. And that's what I see with this particular person. Like they might not have something that I have, but they have a lot of things that I don't have, and they just have this incredible energy and this incredible positivity. And I just think they're an amazingly like secure and creative and just a fantastic individual. And they're not relying on people like praising their looks. They're relying on putting genuine positivity out into the world and just like sharing themselves and who they are and their authenticity with the world. And so I don't want to come across like a dick when I was saying that, but that's something that like I could look at them and be like, wow, well, I think I'm more attractive than them, and like give myself a boost. Or I could look at them, which is how I do look at them, and be like, oh my gosh, this person, like, I wish I was that genuine. I wish I was that talented. I wish I was, whatever. And it's an inspiring thing, and it inspires me not to be like, that's another thing we can touch on. It doesn't make me feel like, wow, I suck because I'm not as creative as this person. I suck because I'm not as genuine or as whatever. It's like, wow, I need to work to put as much positive energy out into the world as this person does, or as much creativity. That's a great outcome to have from social media. That's fantastic. But that can be switched. Anyway, sorry.
Do you have anything to add with this?
Yeah, you guys are just saying like, what's an alternative to trying to be more genuine on the internet? So I don't know if I mentioned this, but I deleted social media back in 2017, and I didn't have it until last year. So I had it deleted for 3 years. And in those 3 years, I learned a lot about, how to be a genuine person that is not on the internet. So I think that just complimenting people in person, like everyone is so afraid to do things in person nowadays. And I think we talked about this before, but I don't know if I already said this, but social media, not having it makes you more social because you're not on your phone interacting with people on the internet. You have to find ways to actually go out and socialize with people. Yeah. And that's social media addiction when you're just on it all day interacting with people on the internet. Now it's good because, sometimes people can't, like quarantine. That's great for social media because we couldn't go and see each other because we didn't know what was going on. But when normal circumstances, just being a genuine person, like going up to someone random and complimenting them, like I think, like you said, the less compliments, the more genuine, because you are it's coming from the heart, not just coming to give someone an ego boost. You know what I mean?
And the more thought out, like what does a compliment like queen mean in terms, or like in comparison, like a commenting queen on social media, versus looking at someone and being like, oh my gosh, I absolutely love like the way you did your makeup today. Like you look so beautiful. You're so awesome. Like it's still a compliment of physical appearance, but it's much more personable and much more genuine and much less like copy and paste. It's like the copy and paste comments that everyone posts on everybody's posts. It's just like,
instead of commenting on people's like a physical appearance on like social media posts when they post a selfie, what if we like commented about something about them that we liked, like the way that they treat people? Like,
wow, that's a really cool cactus in the background of your photo.
Wow, that cactus is real spiky.
That's a great transition actually to something that I wrote down. And so what do you guys think of this? Social media, in part, overinflates humans' value of the hierarchy of physical attraction.
That is so true. Because like dating apps like Tinder and Bumble and stuff, like you are just basing your liking off of someone just off of their face.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Because like we're talking about physical attraction this whole time, but like as far as what really matters, that is not even close to even the top 10 of things that are really important. Right. Now, you should absolutely have like good hygiene, all like, and taking care of yourself and have like that self-respect.
Right.
Because that also puts so much across as far as your confidence and who you are as a person, just having that order and structure to your life. But it's just it's not the most important thing by any stretch of the imagination, but I do believe that is in part something that's suggested to us in social media.
Unrealistic beauty standard. Yeah. Listen, I like when I had Instagram, I would see these girls and be like, why don't I look like that? Why can't I look like that? I would compare myself to them because it's creating this false expectation of what I should look like when I was just I mean, I think I look fine, but like I was so hard on myself because I felt like I needed to look like these girls, but I'm comparing myself to a highlight reel.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't watch a movie and compare your life to the movie. You'd be like, oh, that's fake. Like it's just like
you say that, but I would definitely be willing to bet that people do that.
I compare myself I'm like Star Wars. I'm like, man, I want a lightsaber. I want to be flying around rocket ships and stuff, you know. Yeah. And that makes me depressed when I see Star Wars. I'm like.
Wow, I don't have.
Why is my life like this?
Worm?
If you were all a character in Star Wars, who would you be? You'd be C-3PO.
Why? He's Yoda.
Oh yeah.
I'm just kidding, dude. I love
you.
Why?
Why? What about Yoda? His wisdom?
Yes. You'd be Chewbacca because you're 6'5". So.
Yeah.
Okay, but
hard to understand and hairy. I don't know.
To speak to that point, we talked about this a little before. I have a completely different perspective than that, right?
Yeah. But so sorry, don't mean to cut you off. We have the same, I did cut you off. Sorry, but not sorry. We have the same, value when it comes to this, but we just have different perspectives.
Yeah. So my perspective is, like I was talking about with that person earlier, when I see someone, I don't care, when I'm on social media, I don't like something because I'm like, wow, you look hot. I like something because I think that they're doing something that's really cool. So if someone...
We're very different. I'm just kidding.
That's not what I find interest from. But also, if I see a guy who I think is more attractive than me or whatever,
really
I look at that and I don't ever really find myself beating myself up over that. Yeah. If someone's in better shape than me, I'm like, wow, I should really go to the gym. Or if I see someone that's a better guitar player than me, I'm like, I need to go practice some guitar because that person got there by working hard.
This is a really good point because you actually talked about unrealistic beauty standards, and so one of the questions I had for you, and so perfectly you brought this up, was that and this is kind of a conversation for you both to have, is what's the difference between looking at a really beautiful girl. Mm-hmm. With a whatever inch waist and, out tanned, I don't know, whatever that is, She's frothing at the mouth right now.
Make me cry.
So what's the difference between looking, a girl looking at that, and maybe it's not gender specific, right? Maybe it's not that simple.
Right.
But what's the difference between looking at that and saying, oh my God, if I work really hard, then I can maybe look how like that, right? Like Drake, for instance. He, like you just talked about, seeing someone that is either really fit or doing something that you admire, mm-hmm. Your go-to is wow, that's so cool. How can I incorporate that in my life? Mm-hmm. So is
because I know it's something they worked hard for.
Okay.
I know it's something.
But you don't know that because you're only seeing a highlight reel of someone's life.
If someone is in shape, unless they're on steroids,
could edit it. They could edit it. I'm telling you, if you look at a girl's Instagram. Every single picture they have on there is edited. It might be different for a guy's perspective.
Okay, but you see a dude at the David Goggins. Okay, I follow him on Instagram. He's at the gym doing his weightlifting or whatever. Yeah. He's in better shape. No, on Instagram. He's in better shape than I'm in, and I see him working hard for that. Or if someone posts a video of them playing guitar, sure. There have been people that have been caught, recording their guitar performances at a low speed and speeding them up for Instagram.
Dragon Force!
To sound, Dragon Force is real. No, Herman Lee.
How to train your dragon.
That's real. Herman Lee is an insane guitarist. I don't like Dragon Force,
I'm
but
not
he's
a guitar girl, so I don't know anything they're talking about.
I only bring that up because I thought that there was something that came. I guess I only looked at the speculation.
People thought that was sped up, but he can play it live.
Bringing this back to self-image, though.
I think it's different, what people you're following, because looking back now, you only follow people that you want to see. You follow people that play guitar, have interests similar to yours.
Well, this is something. So I used to follow a lot of bodybuilders. Super into fitness myself, and
Christian Guzman.
Yes, I followed him for sure. Mm-hmm. A lot of these guys, I don't think Christian is, but they're freaking massive, right? And it's so easy as a guy to get sucked into the okay, I've got to have bigger delts, I've got to have a bigger chest. That's because also with guys is that there's kind of this hidden sort of hierarchy of like being, I don't want to say being alpha male, but just being
alpha elite.
Alpha elite. just kind of like being the best guy you can be, being more confident, or being like, oh man, like I just want to be that guy, you know? Like I feel like every guy wants to be like that guy, you know, the guy that like walks in and like he's super confident and he has like a leather jacket on, or he's like you can see his muscles through his shirt or whatever. Maybe this isn't everyone, but everyone has like this type of thing that they kind of like they aspire to, you know, and sometimes that could be negative. But back to the whole just looking at people on social media, even if they are not editing their photos, and some of them might be, a lot of them are on steroids, which is not something that is, you know, so they might have a physique that is unachievable by somebody just purely throughout their genetics and working hard. But I do still think, I think that there's a middle ground. This is what I'm trying to say, is that I think that there's a middle ground between saying, this might not actually be real. This might be photoshopped. Like there's a great example of a guy that's a photo that's circulating on Reddit, I think, and it's like the title is like alpha chat or something like that. It's very clearly edited, but like the muscle insertions, everything, like it's just totally perfect, exactly. So you can kind of think of like, okay, what would I look like if I pushed myself? Right? If you ask yourself that question, then you can kind of fill in with your subconscious and say like, okay, I'm coming up with an image of what I believe I can get if I really push myself.
Right.
And I like that a lot. I'm going to push myself rather than trying to work towards something that is very obviously unobtainable. So I do think that there's an approach to, even on the female side, of saying like, oh, her butt is obviously, you know, that's not actually what it looks like, or her waist is so ridiculously skinny. And because also with females, like some people wear corsets, you know, that can be very unhealthy to, you know. And some people get freaking, what is it, Brazilian butt lifts?
Yeah.
You know, these types of things that can be very, very dangerous.
It's not, it hasn't harmed me that much.
What?
A Brazilian butt
Yeah,
lift?
Brazilian butt lifts?
He got one.
Yeah. And now you're more comfortable when you sit down. But I just wanted to clarify there, because I think there's a middle ground. But you guys, I think you guys should continue to.
That's a good point. But
arguing can be fun.
Also.
You.
Okay, so the guy, the picture that's perfect. Like, whenever someone posts a picture, again, bringing it back to the only posting a highlight reel, you're only seeing a millisecond of their entire day. The picture that they took might be after they did 100 push-ups, 100 squats, 100 whatever.
Oh yeah, all guys that
when they get the pump, you know?
Yeah, the pump, exactly.
So you're comparing yourself to this pump, and you don't see what they look like when they wake up in the morning. Yeah. Usually you're bloated when you wake up in the morning.
But I don't think it's about comparing yourself. I think it's
for
about
you it might not be, but for me it is.
I guess, like, I'll see people on Instagram, like, someone will be recommended that I follow them, and I go and look at, I'm like, okay, this person has 25,000 followers, okay, it's some, like, good-looking girl or whatever. What do they do? What's their thing? Oh, they're just good-looking, like, I'm like, why do so many people follow this person? They're not doing anything interesting. They're like, even if it's like you have a fitness page, or you have a makeup channel, or a travel page, or whatever. But like, there's so many people that have a nothing page. Like, it's a selfie page, and they only have these followers because they're attractive.
Everything always comes back to selfies with him. He really hates selfies.
I just think it's like this thing that has developed from social media, and it's nobody's fault, but it just seems like using a selfie as a way to like put something out there about yourself that you want to talk about, right? That's totally different than just like coming up with some, again, like a cut and paste caption that all these different girls use. And I'm saying girls, I'm sure there's guys that do it, but it's just not as common.
What's like a basic Instagram caption that every girl use?
Blessed, like, I don't know. That's the
know your worth.
I know. Laugh, love.
Live, laugh, love. Oh my goodness.
Stuff like that. It's like, I don't think it's anybody's...
Just went to Thailand.
It's any...
Don't say that in front of
that stuff, but even that stuff too. And I have heard a lot of the like negative or the criticisms of social media being that, oh, it's this constant comparison of yourself to other people. And I don't think that's social media's fault. I think, and it's not saying it's your fault as a human being. It's not like there's something flawed with you. But that's like something mentally that you need to evaluate, and you need to figure out, where are your values? Why are they the way that they are? Why are you looking at the situation the way it is? Because that's something like I can say I don't have that problem. Because when I see people that are
accidentally playing footsie with you guys
that are better than me in whatever way, and people like it's okay to admit that someone's better than you at something, or better than you in some way or another. Like you don't have to try and validate yourself but you need to like realize that you have other skills. Like this person might be more attractive than I am and a better guitar player, but do they have the same vision for the world that I have? Do they have the same drive or motivation in regards to wanting to help other people or help the environment or whatever?
That just shows your maturity, because a lot of people aren't thinking that in depth as it. I think it's a difference between guys and girls. Again, like girls are more emotions driven and comparison, because again, we have more of an, I'm not like a feminist, but it's true, we have a more unrealistic beauty standard to hold up to, just because, I don't know, society or maybe our own thoughts and feelings about the way we should look. Which is shallow, because again, not everything is based off of the way that you look. So I'm giving you a compliment saying that you looking more into depth with those things is just proving your maturity, because you're not just looking at the surface level things. You're looking at what people, their values, their dreams, their hopes, and what they aspire to be.
Now, do you think that, like, that unrealistic beauty standard, do you think that that is, like, biologically embedded, or do you think that that has more so been brought up through social media?
I think definitely brought up through social media, because if you look back in, you know, the 1800s, 1700s, whatever, even early 1900s, like, obviously women cared about what they look like, but, I mean...
It's a communication aspect. It's that things like movies and TV, that's what, like, sparked all of those.
As media started coming out, people felt the need to compare themselves to people that they saw on the screen.
I think that this is a really great opportunity as well. This is kind of like a side tangent, but as far as the grand scheme of everything, like as far as the evolution of like female rights, for instance, even like that is not that like old of a thing, you know. So I think that still we are, from even something that's happened, you know, quite a long time ago. I think that there's still shifts when it comes to globally. Because there's so many cultures to take into consideration, and with social media, it is a global thing.
Right.
So it's affected by all of these. Now, I mean, it's largely affected by, you know, a few really key players, but with that being such a global thing, it just takes a long time to sort of acclimate to those new standards. I think it's a really great opportunity if it's set up properly, and if the proper changes are made. I do think that it's an opportunity for us to get away from those unrealistic beauty standards. Because, you know, that's been, you know, with females, historically speaking, been very much, I want to say itemized, but they're, oh my goodness, what is it? It's when somebody is, when you're treating like
objectified?
Objectifying, perfect, thank you. When, you know, historically speaking, women being very objectified, you know, I think that this is a really great opportunity for us to sort of break away from that. Now, I also want to say that, as far as all of like everything that's going on with the unrealistic beauty standards, I think it also speaks to our values that we have on what's important.
Right.
And there was, I mentioned this in a different podcast, but there was a study done, or it was a poll that was taken on what could be the best thing that could happen in your life. And the answer for the vast majority of people was winning the lottery. Even though statistically speaking, people that win the lottery end up right back where they start the vast majority of the time. You know, like there's an example of a garbage man, won the lottery, millions of dollars. I think it was like 3 years later, back being a garbage man. Yeah. And so it's so sad to see that, but it's just, even though, and also on the flip side is that the very negative thing that nobody wanted was being a paraplegic. What does it mean? Quadriplegic. But there's examples of people being quadriplegic and being just as happy as they were before. Now that's a terrible thing to happen, but it just goes to show
your perspective.
Exactly, your perspective, people's values. And the reason I bring this up is because although I don't think that it is purely social media's fault, I think that it's also something to say that if the vast majority of people have a particular reaction to a system, then that's a bad system, right? Because we have to be thinking generally and globally. And I think it'd be easy to say, yeah, why don't humans just change? You know, LOL, yeah, just think about it deeper, you know?
LOL.
But at the same time, there's a reason why it's evolved to the way that it is right now. Yeah. And I think that there is a way that social media can be structured that encourages different values. Yeah. Because it really does create a toxic sort of situation here where, like, you can photo edit how you look, right? You can augment all those things, and it encourages people to do dangerous surgeries and things like that. And also, like you mentioned on the female side of things, there's a lot of people that are suffering because they see these things and be like, I don't feel like I can ever be like that, and that's what everyone values. And if that's what everyone values, and I can never be like that, then no one can ever value me. And that's an unfortunate thing.
But again, though, that's a mental. That's not true.
Yes.
That's the fact.
You're right.
The
that's
fact
not true.
It is not true.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a mental blockade or mental thing that's not like it is an issue of something that you need to figure out personally as to why is that the way that you're thinking about the world. Something for me, like you're talking about unrealistic beauty expectations for girls. Well, what's an unrealistic expectation for guys? Guys are supposed to be tall, right? That's something. That's seriously. That's something that's so propagated and everything is I think there's a thing on Twitter where girls will put in the bio you have to be this tall or taller or whatever.
They do that on
Yes,
Tinder too.
yes,
yeah.
they do. They do.
And
on Tinder.
did I say Twitter?
No,
you said Tinder, right?
You said Twitter.
Twitter?
I meant Tinder. Yeah, so stuff like that.
Also say you
as something for for someone of my height.
Stature.
Should I just give up? I'm never gonna be 6 foot anything. I'm topped out. But then there's also people that develop this complex about it, about I'm short, so I need to get
overcompensate for something.
Yeah, overcompensate for that. But there's things that you just can't change. And why would you sit around being depressed and sad about something that you can't change? I cannot change my height,
but
and I don't give to I don't care that I'm short. I'm not it doesn't make me sad that you're a foot taller than I am, or that you're a good 3 or 4 inches taller than I am. That doesn't I don't lay awake at night being oh my gosh, these unrealistic standards of height for men, they're making me so sad because
your facial expressions are freaking hilarious.
Because I'm just this short little man and I don't care. I can't change it.
Short little man.
So here's the thing, right? Because it's clear that you guys both have very different viewpoints.
I have something to add.
Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Because I'm about to try to maybe shift this a little bit because we've talked about a lot of these issues, and I think that's awesome. We've highlighted things, and first off, I'm glad that you're here because now we have another sort of viewpoint. Because social media, especially, it's definitely very important to get the representation from the female side of things.
About it.
So not just the good part about it. We can talk about that, but what do you think is a direction that we can do? Because now we've isolated it to do 2 different parts, where there's potential change to the structure of social media and what it encourages, and then also changes to the general mindset around either social media or just generally speaking, what we value, things that we can do as people, and maybe not blame social media for it. Sure. So that's but I want you to get your bit in.
I was gonna say that about the beauty standard. One positive thing about social media that has shifted in the modeling world, or the advertising world, is that companies are more apt to use plus size models now and stuff, and people who are not considered perfect. Now, I'm not promoting an unhealthy lifestyle or anything.
That's an important preface.
Yeah, everyone's entitled to feel the way they feel about what they look, but I'm not saying go out of your way to not take care of yourself. But it's good that companies are integrating different statures of people, because before, if you look at a model runway, it's people with a waist that is this big and twig legs, and expecting them to look a certain way. But now I think they're being more lenient and more open to different body types, which is great. And I think social media has a big part with that, because people were complaining about it and saying that there's always an unrealistic standard.
Absolutely. But again, I think you have to look at something like that and say, okay,
this guy,
this girl has this super tiny waist and these, this thigh gap and whatever. And you have to look, what does it take to get there? What does that person probably feel like mentally? Are they happy with their life? Is this fulfilling for them? And I just think
that's a dangerous thing, because you can say, oh, they probably feel like shit. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to
I'm not promoting that body type.
But seriously, if that's something that I look at a huge buff dude, and I'm I don't want to be like that. I want to be in good shape. But because to me, that value, the amount of time I would have to spend focusing on, injecting myself with steroids just to no, I'm just kidding.
Put some Miracle Grow in there.
But for me, like, what I want to do is I want to be able to run and go to the gym and be in good shape and know that I'm like a healthy human being.
But I think this is something that you brought up in the compliment, right? Is that not everyone has that maturity, self-awareness. See, when we see these things, when we see these pictures online as kids, we don't necessarily decipher between real, fake, achievable, non-achievable, whatever that is. You know, that might also, how we view that might also be very much caused by our upbringing and how confident we are. If we're susceptible to, you know, feeling like we're a crappy person or whatever, and we're looking for ways that we can get more value.
Right.
And when we go online, we say, okay, so I have to look this certain way. And then people have those embedded in them, and they don't even know that those types of repressed ways of thinking are even present because they're so deeply embedded in their subconscious. This happens all the time.
Yes.
So it's so important to talk about this because people can go their entire life and end up being either, you know, whether it might come out in anger or it might come out in extreme jealousy or maybe sadness, depression, anxiety, whatever, like all these different negative emotions. It depends on what your weak link is as far as like what that sort of weak link in your chainmail is, or whatever when you have a lot of stress being put on that, that's what's going to blow out, right? Is whatever that weak emotion is. So, you know, like for me, for instance, I know that when I was 18, I moved to Florida. One of the things I did was modeling. And so I tried it. It wasn't professional or anything, but me being 6'5", you know, so like I go there, I go to the agency, we do a thing, and so the lead person says, I'm gonna put 6'3" on your card because it's a lot more marketable, and we're gonna change your name up here as well. And so all of a sudden it's like, okay, wait, so I can't be how tall I am. Right, because it's very specific age. I know that's a really fringe problem to have, but now me then I moved back to Pennsylvania and up in New York. This is random facts about modeling that you don't necessarily need to know, but what was told to me is, hey, New York is like a hub for runway modeling, for instance, right? And there's very, 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 very specific, less so now, like you pointed out, very specific body types they look for, right? And so if you don't make the cut, you don't make the cut, you know? And it's like very cut and dry. So then all of a sudden I'm like, shit, you know, like this is you know, like all of a sudden this is something I cannot change about myself, right? Unless I want to go about life without feet, you know. I cannot remove 2 inches from me, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's
he'll just take your
yeah. We'll do a swap.
Yeah.
So that's just, you know, I know also it's much worse for the female side of things, but it's just, that's kind of just an example. But the whole reason is that people can go such a long time with that. Like, so, and yeah, what I wanted to say is that after that point, you know, like I felt bad about the way I looked, right? Because it's like, I'm too freaking tall, you know, this sucks. And so that's just an example of that. And it takes so much maturity, not just maturity, but a lot of courage to be able to go back into your crap and say, listen, I know that I can be better. That is not present in the vast majority of people.
And he has that.
You do have that, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But that is not the vast majority of people by any stretch of the imagination. I would definitely say.
I think you know that though, because
but I think if I can see it from like the mental perspective that I have and be able to say, I don't know, the things
it's
that
possible for other people.
Then yeah, it should be possible to be able to have that type of healthy outlook on people that are better than you. It's something that one, if you can't, like, I know people that they look at a guitarist and this is something that's been said in like the creative community, is you'll see like all these amazing shred guys and you look at them and you're like, wow, I suck, I'm not as good as them. Like, no, you look at them and you say, wow, okay, I know how much practice I've put in to get to the point where I'm at. Right. This guy's practiced like 3 times more than I. Do I have time to do that? Do I want to do that? Like, I want to, like, there's all sorts of things I want to be, but I don't, it's not in it in terms of like value for me.
But you're able to navigate that because you have such a strong confidence in yourself. You have a really great emotional base. So when you're going through these things of like, hey, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this, you could say I'm not good at these 100 things, and you're still fine because you know that as a person that you have capability, you have the ability, you're confident that you have the ability to go and pursue those things if you choose to, right? But if somebody doesn't have the belief in themselves, if they grew up with a really shitty upbringing, right, and they were always told that they were nothing, right? Or they were told that they were an accident, or all these different things. Like, you know,
Sorry, that's mean.
Yeah, it is mean, but these things happen, right?
Yeah.
And it's so unfortunate, and I don't want to give people a card to play victim.
Yeah.
I want to be careful not to
So
say
how do
that.
you go about helping people educate themselves in terms of getting to a point of like a mature mindset?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're not going to be able to change. You're not going to be able to say, guys on steroids, you can't post on Instagram. Girls with skinny waists, you can't
I would
post.
never,
You
I
could
would never suggest that.
filter that. All you could do there is you can just say, Instagram doesn't exist anymore. Now visual, whatever. And I do think that creating social media, and this is something that I'm working on, is like sort of platforms where your voice is restricted to something that's like creative. But when I see someone on social media, I have a friend, Anna Wagner, who is a photographer, and she's a super passionate, super happy person, very
Follow her on
religious.
Instagram.
Absolutely. Anna Rose Co. Photography, something like that, as well as Anna Wagner.
Sponsored, thanks for sponsoring.
When I see her stuff on Instagram, I'm so inspired. I don't
Yeah.
care about photography. I don't want to be a photographer. But I see that she has something that she cares about so deeply, and that's so inspiring to me. So it's like, I don't care what you care about, but it's the fact that you care about something that to me is so like crucial on social media, and is so crucial to like represent yourself and what you care about. And it doesn't matter what that is. It matters that you care and that you have something that you.
Sorry.
No, that was pretty much it.
Your question was, how do we solve the issue of people?
Yes.
Honestly, just finding ways to be confident in yourself, like not relying.
Just find a way to be confident in yourself.
And
But everybody can do that, though. Everybody has things
No,
like
but not everyone can.
But everyone does have that inside of them. Like someone might be physically attractive, but they might lack depth or the ability to like. You're significantly better at talking to strangers than I am, and significantly better at being like kind to random people that you don't know. Like, I'm not mean to. If I'm like try to be nice to people, wave to people when I'm running and stuff like that. But you're significantly better than I am in that regard, and I can admit that and say, hey, that's something that I should work on, because it's not like I'm a horrible human being because I'm not as kind as you are
Right.
to strangers. I have other things that I've put work into, and I can look at that and say, hey, this is something that I should work on. But there are people that just have absolutely like the quadriplegic, right?
Yeah.
So much less like let's go on a walk with that guy. You can't do it, you know? Like it's terrible, but guess what he has, right? He has the ability to motivate thousands of people and be a bodybuilder and do all these things that I can't do because of the situation that he's been put in and because of the strengths that he have that are beyond his like physical disabilities. Or people that go beyond their level of physical attractiveness. Some people just are not going to be physically attractive, and that sucks. But there's so many people that take that and they just have the most incredible outlook on life because they've had to deal with that. And that's another thing, like dealing with your demons. Like, that's something that I'm sure is incredibly hard to deal with, to like look in the mirror and be like, I will never be physically attractive. Doesn't matter how much I work out, doesn't matter what I do, it's not going to happen, right? And the demons that you're going to have to battle to come to terms with that, and then be able to come out in the world and be a positive influence on other people. But it happens, and when you see that, you don't care about the fact that that person is not attractive. You don't look down on them for that fact. You look up on them by saying, oh my gosh, look at all this stuff, this amazing stuff you've been able to do and how you've been able to empower people and all this creativity and positive energy you put into the world. That's incredible.
But not everyone can see that on social media. Like, someone might be an incredibly positive and uplifting person, but you're not seeing that side of it.
But that's what I'm saying, is that is what I'm seeing on social media, is someone who, or people that might not be super attractive, but they're way better artists than I am, or they're way more positive, or they just have this like energy, this aura about them that I can admire.
Right.
And it gives you no room as a human being to look down on that person for not having this XYZ thing that you have, because you recognize what they have that you do not have.
Right.
And for them, it's like they've worked to develop a personality trait that is worthwhile, whereas you literally just were born looking a certain way. So the admiration for them should be tenfold over what it should be for you. Like, unless, like, especially if you're not somebody who puts any effort into it. If you don't care about how you eat and you don't go to the gym and you don't work out or do anything like that, you're just like naturally, you have a high metabolism and you're good looking. Like, you don't deserve praise for that because you didn't do anything. Whereas
You're
looking at someone who
absolutely right,
doesn't have that, but they put all this work into their craft or their positive social aura or whatever, like that deserves a way more praise because the person actually put work in to make that happen.
I agree.
Do you have anything to add before I
No,
say
go for it.
Okay. This is my proposition, right? Is that there's people out there, like I mentioned before, that don't have a template or they don't have, that no one's ever told them that they should believe in themselves, for instance, right? And it's not that simple. It's no one that they love has come up to them and said, hey, you're worth something, right? And to be able to look them in the eyes and then be able to believe that, right? Because there's people that they're just, their focus is so negative that a random stranger could say like, oh hey, like I love your shoes, you know, your hair looks great today. I just wanted to say that, you know. You're like, oh man, they're just saying I probably look really sad or something, and like they just wanted to, you know, make me feel better. Oh man, they didn't mean it. They didn't mean it, right? You can look for the bad. You can always find something bad in something. You could also always find something good in something. Right. There's stories of people back in, I don't know if it was World War I or World War II, that are literally in the trenches, bombs being dropped on them, and people start singing, right? Where it's these examples of people that are just in the worst, the shittiest possible situation, but they find the good in it, right? There's also examples, billionaires, sons and daughters, for instance. They have, there was actually a community, one of the, like, oh my goodness, I wish I knew the name of this. I should put it in the description so people can go look this up and fact check for themselves. But there's a community where there was like this crazy outbreak of suicides in these young adults when they were super well off, right? And it's it's just examples of people that have everything, but they're missing something, right?
We talked about. Oh, sorry.
Okay, just to finish this up, the reason I highlight the part of focus is because if we can, as a community, even a small community, if we can build the sort of the sort of template of saying, hey, we're choosing to treat people differently, right? Just us, our small group, and then we grow it. A few more people. We say, listen, society is telling us that beauty standard is everything. We here at this group, we do not believe that. We value these other things. We're going to post about things that we truly care about. That's what we're going to promote, right? So we can start making waves like that. And that's in my opinion, that's one of the beautiful things about social media is because it is so open. And although, yes, there's also so much policing going on, we haven't even gone over that, or we might not be able to get to that exactly. But it has opportunity for things to spread from such a small originating spot. And so if we can sort of put out those tools of saying, hey, listen, this is how I went from being, and that's one of the reasons why like I'm so grateful to have gone through the shit that I have, because I was one of those people that didn't believe in myself at all. You know, one of those people that said like, hey, I'm a net detriment to society as a whole, and it's better off if I just wasn't alive, right? And now going from that to saying, listen, I have a story that can help people, right? So like I'm living proof that showing someone can go from that, going on the internet and saying like, hey, I'm seeing all these people living amazing lives, and I'm never going to live like that. You know, I shouldn't even be around. And people thinking like that way can absolutely, like you're saying, you're thinking like that. You're living proof that you like someone can think like that, and someone can also change to thinking like that, right? But people need to know that it's possible. They need to be shown the way, and they need to have an example and a template. And they also need to know that someone believes in them. Right. So if we can, even as a small growing community, if we can say, listen, we're going to increase our standard for how we talk to people. Yeah. We're going to increase our standard for the content that we're putting out on social media. I know that all my friends do all this stuff, but since I joined this community, this is how I choose to use social media, right? I really think that if, you know, this kind of spreads, and it doesn't have to be us changing the world, right? But we started. Yeah. And then, you know, maybe a little bit of a bigger podcast or show says, you know, I think they're onto something, right? Yeah. This is very realistic. I thought we were the number one podcast in the world.
Yeah.
Well, we are. It's just that we like to lower the numbers. It's only visible.
Yeah, I thought this was the biggest one.
I thought that I was going on... You're telling me that this isn't a popular podcast?
we lied to her.
I don't think we have 25 listeners. Last time I checked, it was 23.
Yeah. Can I add on to that?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
So, yeah, I'm a living proof of that as well. I didn't think I was going to talk about this, but I went through like a morbid depression, like the exact year that I had deleted social media, like a few months after I deleted it. And I wasn't really sure where that depression was stemming from, what was happening to me. I didn't really understand like the things I was feeling. So that forced me to like really dig deep into who I was and find out who I was. And I don't mean to get like spiritual on you guys or anything, but I'm very much a spiritual person. Like, I definitely believe that God exists and we're not here just by happenstance. We're here for a purpose and a reason. And a couple of months after I deleted social media, I was like, okay, well, now I have this distraction out of my life. How do I grow? So I was like, God, like, please help me grow. And then I hit this deep, dark depression that it took me like a year to get out of. And like I said, I dug deep into who I was, and I think that the reason why I am here today and can say like I learned so much from not having social media is because I stopped finding worth in like what people thought about me, finding worth in what I did, my achievements. Started finding worth in like what does God think of me, like what is my value with God, like how does he see me, how does he view me. And once you can like shift that perspective, you don't care about what people think about you. And that's when you're able to be a more positive light and a positive influence on social media, because it doesn't become about you. Because notice when we're talking, everything we're saying is selfish motivated. Like me. Like, what does God think about you? When once you are able to find that worth, I feel like you're able to be a more positive person because it's not about you all the time. So.
But that's also something that you can't bet on, because I can say for someone like me that holds zero value.
Sure.
And I
okay. I just
like no, but it's true. A lot of people are not religious, and so they don't have that.
I'm not religious.
That thing, spiritual. Okay, they don't have that thing to look up to. And I've been in so many religious situations. I've seen all of this in depth a lot. And it's super inspiring. And for me, like, if I'll be in a particular religious situation, like the living room, the worship center thing in Lancaster, that place, you go there, it doesn't matter if you're religious or not. It's a motivating and uplifting
spiritual
place
experience.
Of, like, people that are super caring and nice and whatever. But you also need to be able to figure out that worth, like, because religion or spirituality is not something for everybody. And how do you, like, saying that, oh, I'm on this earth because God has a purpose for me, like, well, if you don't believe in God, then God does not have a purpose for you.
Okay.
So how do you
live life not thinking you have a purpose?
First off, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
First off, thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you.
I know you weren't planning on doing that, and it could be difficult to share about those things, but also it was so perfect that you shared that, because just like I just said, people need a template that shows them, hey, listen, I was just like you.
Yeah.
And now I'm like this.
And you're more relatable.
You can do it too, right? Seeing that is so, I cannot overstate how important that is for people to have the courage to be able to open up about the crap that they've gone through and where they are now. Because that blazes a trail for them, right? And I think that we need a lot of that. So I think that's fantastic. I forgot where I was going after that. I wanted to make sure I thanked you for that, right? Because it's very important to show people that.
But that's good to see. That's what I think is so awesome about podcasts, is because you see everybody's different perspective.
Yeah.
Like, you'll see this is how someone who's spiritual was able to use that to get out of a problem, and this is how someone who's not spiritual was able to get out of that. And I'm thankful for the fact that I never got to that point. I started heading down that road for a couple months, and it never got that bad, and I just I just never stopped trying. Like, I was always just trying to figure out a new technique or whatever. Like one time it was I'm just gonna be super ridiculously nice to people. So for I just decided one morning that's what I was gonna do, and I got out of that I don't know, depression or whatever you'd call it, for a couple days, because I just decided I was gonna be super nice. And the first day I did that, I was like, I fixed it, it's done. And then 3 days later I was like, crap, no, it still sucks. And I don't really know what the defining moment of getting out of that was, but I was able to get out of that situation before it ever got bad. And I've always, up until that point, I've always been felt super awkward when people are talking about depression, because it's just something that I've not ever had to experience until that point. But I still never experienced it at any of the level that you guys have had to. So I do feel somewhat unrelatable, because I don't know, why do I have the perspective that I have on social media? Why do I not look at things the way that a lot of other people look at them, in terms of comparing themselves to other people?
There's going to be people that have the same viewpoint as you, that's saying
right.
Hey, I've gone through stuff, but I've never, these guys are saying some heavy stuff, I don't want to sound insensitive right now, but like I don't really feel that way. So you're going to be able to talk to people like that, right? You're going to be able to share and have that connection with them. So like you still have a really great viewpoint.
Right.
I realize that my story does get dark. Yeah. And whenever I tell it, especially at its depth, then I do run the risk of alienating some people.
Sure.
But at the same time, even if there's one person amongst the crowd that really freaking needs it, they need it, right? And I mean, I was about to say screw everyone else, but it's just like that person needs it, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like that's kind of my mentality. I do want to also something I meant to highlight was you talked about finding what God thought about you and thinking that way.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's a more secular way to kind of translate that.
Sure.
And like if you think of what comes to mind first is ants, right? Ants by themselves. Right.
Like my aunt?
No.
Ants.
Ants.
Oh, okay.
Right? Ants are part of a colony, right? And if you squash one, that's not going to have a really measurable difference, right? But they are.
So you as an individual don't matter, really.
Yeah, nothing matters.
Let me finish, okay? So, but ants are they're all like the same. They're like copy paste, right? So if you get rid of all of them, then that's their whole community, right? So at what point does that stop? Right, where one person is one valuable or is it not? And the answer is that one is very freaking valuable, right? Because when they're all together, they have so much power. And what's so great is that so each individual ant has value, right? And they don't really have the chance. Like you can't, if you're a worker ant, you're a worker ant. You can't go be a freaking king. You know, like they pretty sure they have queens in that. The ant king, exactly. Pretty sure they have queens in that. But the point is that you have no way of rising that hierarchical standard, right? But you still have so much value.
Right.
With humans, on the other hand, you do have the chance, especially with social media, to have your voice be heard so much more than just, hey, I am here in whatever state you're in. I am in Ohio, and I can only talk to people that are my neighbors.
I thought you were talking about mental state.
Ohio.
Ohio mental state.
That's exactly the thing, though, is that you have a voice, but that's what's important, is having a voice, not just posting pictures of yourself devoid of any meaning or social value.
Just to wrap that up, and I do want to touch on that again, but every person has intrinsic value. Means that they can screw up as much as they want, and that doesn't change. Right? And now,
except for Hitler,
value to the marketplace. But like, okay, everyone when they were born, they have choices. You can really you can screw that up. But also, I do believe that if somebody goes, God forbid, murders somebody, right? If they go through a complete change in years and years in prison, we're talking decades, right? If they come out on the other side and they said, I was a really shitty person. I was a shitty person, but I met so many people. I had these changes. I've found God, whatever that is for them. Did what they did? Does that completely erase any potential for them to have a positive impact? Listen, I don't want to say
no.
Okay,
it doesn't really for them to have maybe a positive impact, but that's like a black mark on your record that you're never getting rid of.
You're right. I'm not saying that you redeem yourself from that. But what I'm saying is that there's no point, and I'll stand by that. There's no point at which you cannot stop and say, like, okay, if somebody commits terrible atrocities. If they stop and they say their last moments, right, their last words, they said, I never told this person this, and they probably don't remember, but someone in second grade, I really thought that they were a really amazing person. I never met anyone that was nice to me, but that person was nice to me, and I wish that I followed in their footsteps better. Is that, like, that can be great, even though I'm not saying that it makes up for all the crap that they did, but I'm just saying that every person has the potential. So that's what I wanted to touch on. Is if you don't necessarily have to believe in Christianity to feel that no matter what, because one of the great things about that is, like, and I'm not a super religious person. I know that you said you're not necessarily religious.
Just spiritual.
You're spiritual, exactly. But from what I understand about that is that one of the beautiful parts of it is that, you screw up. Everyone screws up. That's part of us.
Right.
But we can, like, life can be worth all, like, making up for all the crap that we do. Like, we can do things well. We can have a positive impact, right? And have that be, what really highlights us rather than, the crap that inevitably everyone's going to do stuff, But I do want to go back to whatever you're talking about.
This is kind of not really about what you just said, but about what he said earlier.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's fine.
when you're not going through a depressive state or episode, it's hard to relate and it makes you uncomfortable. And I was in your shoes, like when I was in like 9th grade, whatever. People talk about like anxiety and depression. I'm like, okay, just like get over it.
No, like, I've literally been quoted. I guarantee you, I've said that before.
It doesn't take that much to get over it, but like you just can't. Like you just can't. And we were talking about this, and I'm in like a life group of people my age, and we, not like a podcast, we just talk about life and like how we can improve ourselves and stuff. And our like coordinator was saying that she was in the same boat as me, like she just like look at her friends and be like, stop crying, get over it. And you just can't do that. So although what I went through was like the darkest time in my life, and I wouldn't wish those thoughts and feelings and that feeling of like not being able to escape yourself on my worst enemy, because that was the darkest point in my life, but I'm grateful that now I can relate to people who have gone through the same thing as me, because whereas before I would have been like, get over it, like you're weak, and it can happen to the best of people and the strongest.
First
of
off,
people.
that can sound very insensitive, but it's also very important to say those things, because there are people out there that think that way, you know, and it's like you don't have that perspective, you know.
No, that's absolutely not how I felt, and it didn't take me getting to the point that either of you two got to understand that. But it got to the point of me being like, okay, I've been like pretty sad for the past like 5 months, and I can't not be sad, and why is that? And then that just like, it gave me the ability to see how that could get worse, and it didn't get worse, thankfully, but I could see how it could get there, and so it's made it like, I've at least had a level of like heightened sensitivity around that subject. But there is also like a huge victim mentality of like, wallowing and like, oh, I'm so and like there's definitely also like a thing there, and there's people, that's the other side of social media, is while there are the people that are going to be out there just posting them living their best lives, which I think is fantastic, there's also the side of people that are just constantly posting about how horrible their lives are.
Dude, I think there's a Facebook page called Suicide Quotes or something like that, and it's literally just posting like this garbage after garbage of saying like, I feel like dying today, and then there's like people in the comments being like, yes, you know, like
same queen.
But it's like, I mean,
but you can say that because yes, because I have gone there, right? And I also, you know, people I hope that people have watched the different podcasts and they've seen some pieces, and eventually I'll definitely have to kind of go and officially just say everything, right? So people have the full context. But I have gone there, right? And so I've been in that spot. Oh my god, I just lost my fucking train of thought. But I mean, I've Facebook
been
groups.
Yeah, the Facebook groups. Yes, exactly. So, and now I can also say from personal experience that it is very. Now, I was never someone to go and post on social media or say anything to anyone. I was on the opposite, and I very much put on a facade.
Right.
And said, yeah, I'm happy, I'm super freaking caffeinated, I'm the super like popular dude, right? But then in my head I'm like, I'm with these people.
Yes.
I don't feel anything right
Isn't
now.
Isn't it crazy?
And it is.
But I think that's why you need to be genuine on social media.
Yes, you do need to be genuine.
That's like the most important thing is that you're genuine and you can admit that, hey, sometimes things aren't great, but not just wallowing. Like either way, you're not being genuine. If all you're posting is... If what you're saying when you're posting is saying stuff like, I don't know, what you were just talking about is I'm so cool, or like giving off that vibe, like not having the ability to publicly admit that things aren't always the most fantastic or whatever, but there's a very fine line between that and then just these people that all they do is just post about how depressed and sad they are. And I'm like, if you if you were that depressed, you wouldn't be posting about it. Right. Like I'm sure that you both, like if you really are in that situation, is the thing you want to do is go and post on Facebook and say, I'm so depressed, I hate my life. Like I feel like you get to a point where if you're really that deep into it, like that's not what you want to be doing. And so to me, that annoys me when I see people that just post like that, because I want to have sympathy for them, but at the same time, it's like, why are you posting that? Like, what value do you get? Like, why don't you reach out to a friend? And I guess maybe some people don't have someone they feel like they can reach out to like that. And there's so many like complexities. So I don't want to like seem like I'm generalizing things too much. but there's definitely like an air of that in social media.
To touch on that though, I can definitely see how it's very easy to think of things that way. I would say that I have, maybe this is upbringing, but I would say that in my personal opinion that I have had, and I hope this doesn't cross as like egocentric, but I feel like I've been pretty empathetic with people. I was super sick from a very early age, so I feel like I was able to empathize with people that are going through a lot, right? And so my thought was always, I don't want to cause pain to someone else. So I'm never going to say anything about any of my problems. I'm always going to keep them to myself. And when I'm around people, I'm going to make sure I put on a facade, because if I don't, then that's going to be weighing them down. But if someone doesn't have that sort of structure of thought, right, if they're not necessarily looking past them, if they believe, listen, like, I'm the only one going through this, according to them, their definition of how things are going on. I'm the only one going through this right now. Everyone else is fine. I need help right now. And people are always telling me to reach out to people, and like they're going to be supportive. So okay, I guess I'll post. If all my friends are saying it and all my friends are following me, why don't, I'm kind of filling in some blanks here.
Yeah.
But it makes sense that somebody would reach that conclusion if they weren't. I do feel like it's pretty insensitive, and I feel like that's pretty blunt, but I do think it's true because it weighs people down so much. But at the same time, it's so loaded because you can't possibly get truly comforting words that's going to help you in that situation via text. I mean, you can get some uplifting stuff, but I really feel like there's no
like if you're posting a selfie of yourself on Snapchat on your story and saying, "Oh my God, I hate my life. I'm so depressed right now." Like I don't look at that and I don't think, "Oh, I need to reach out to this person." Like I'm like,
they're starving for attention.
Like you're just exactly. That's what I think, and I'm sure there's situations where that's not the case. Mm-hmm. But I think the general consensus, and I know I've talked to people that I don't think I've heard anybody that has a different opinion other than that, even people that have been in those states. The consensus I've heard is that's not what you do. Like when you're really depressed and things are really bad, you don't post a selfie and be like, I hate my life.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead. I feel like we could go back and forth on this.
Sure.
It's just that I just want to preface by saying it's kind of dangerous to make that statement because it can kind of be like a boy that cried wolf type thing,
right?
Of like, man, like I'm not really. I mean, like maybe I'm kind of suicidal right now. What do you think, guys? You know?
Sorry.
And then, I know, but
like
same time,
if you think I'm suicidal.
But it just you get to the point where it's just like, well, I guess they don't care, so I guess I'll just kill myself, And so I don't want to generalize and say that, but at the same time, this is one of those things of like.
But
there's a certain type
value
of behavior.
What people say about them on social media so much, or
I'm not trying to validate that behavior by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
I would not encourage anyone to do that. I would say that this is just throwing this out there. If anyone is having those thoughts, first off, I would absolutely call the suicide prevention hotline.
I'm taking my time.
Yeah, which
I feel like I'm out. You know that song?
Yes, I do. But seriously, I would absolutely call that, because I've called that line myself. Not for myself, unfortunately. I wish I did, but I've called that for a friend.
Yeah.
Whether you or a friend is going through those suicidal thoughts, I would absolutely call that line, and we will go back and make sure we put that on the front there.
You're talking to someone about it, because
exactly.
I can't imagine going through that alone.
Talk to people like your parents if you have really really helpful parents. But absolutely, you need to talk to people, right?
Yeah.
And posting about it on social media, as we're saying right now, I know it can seem very insensitive what we're talking about right now, but we're trying to dig deep and figure out what the issues are, the core issues. I want to preface this in case anyone is going through these times, because it can be easy when we're pushing on the sore spots for people to feel devalidated in those weak times. So I just want to put that out there. That's important.
Another thing you said that I sort of resonated with was talking about like reaching out to people. That's something that I've had to work a lot on, because I definitely for a long time had the mentality of, hey, I need to fix all my problems on my own and I don't need to talk to people about things and whatever, especially because I was never in a position where I could like reach out to my parents. Like I don't talk to my parents about that type of thing. I know for someone like you have a really close relationship with your parents and you can be very open with them. Whereas for me, it's like I have a problem. My parents are like the last people that I'm going to go to like talk to them about that situation. But for me, it's come like maybe even just more so in the past year or two of just being able to like message a friend and being like, hey, can I talk to you? Like, I need to talk to somebody. I've messaged you before, I know, like, and I've been like, hey, do you want to come over? Because I need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
You know, and, like, sometimes you just need to talk to somebody. And I think knowing that it's okay to, like, have the need to talk to somebody is really important. Because that's definitely a position that I have spent a long portion of my life in, is where, like, I would never talk to anybody about anything. And that can really help, is just knowing that, like, I don't know, that you're not like a burden on somebody. Like, but at the same time, there's a fine line between being in a friend group where you just wallow all the time. Like, for me, if I'm in a sad state and I'm getting together with the boys, right? I want to get together with the boys and I want to have fun and I want to not think about whatever is going on, right? That's like a release, an escape. It's like not an unhealthy one, but it's like a social, like, hey, you know what? I'm going to get out of my bedroom. I'm going to stop being sad about this, whatever situation I'm in. And I'm just going to go and spend time with my friends. And there are times when you need to have serious conversations with your friends, but there are also people who will get into the habit of their thing is that they're just always sad and they just bring other people down with them.
It's a personality trait for them.
What do you think as far as, because I mean, females and males work differently in their social groups.
Yeah.
So what do you think about what Drake just said as far as like how that plays out in a more female-based group?
Well, first off, I want to say that I am very grateful that I deleted social media before I was depressed, because I can't imagine, like, obviously, like, this goes back to the highlight reel thing. Like, I would not be posting about how sad I am and, you know, trying to get attention, I guess. Like, I'm not that type of person, but I would feel like I'm putting on a facade for people because I'm portraying this happy lifestyle on the internet, but internally I'm suffering. And I even felt like that even when I was hanging out with friends. Like, I'm putting on this facade of I'm enjoying being with my friends, but I'm inside, I'm like suffering. So I don't know if there's a difference between the way that girls and boys are like that on social media. I think it just depends on the type of person and, like you said, their background and how they've grown up. But yeah, I don't know. I forget where I was going. What was the question again?
Just kind of what you think of, like Drake talked about how when he goes and hangs out with the boys, for instance, right? And he's like, he might be in a sad state, but he doesn't necessarily want to bring that into that, right? But
unless it needs to happen.
Okay.
And that's but for me, that's maybe something.
Yeah.
That's a more serious and like situational thing, not a constant element. But it's the same way on social media that there are people that will post about their mental illness and they'll say, look, I'm really struggling with this. This is how I'm this is what's helping. This is whatever. And I see that in the same way that I see somebody saying, hey, I've been struggling with anorexia or whatever. That's your voice, and that should be like, and then that's a moment where you would, if it's your friend or something, maybe you send them a message and you say, hey, do you want to get together and we can like talk and I can help you, maybe we can talk about this or whatever. But that is completely different from posting a selfie on your Snapchat story saying, oh, I hate my life.
Yeah.
Like, there's
we can
that's
all
not
name that
genuine
one person
either.
that we know that
like
does that.
I think it's great when there's somebody that, not it's great that they're depressed, but it's great that they're able to be open and genuine with people and say, hey, things aren't going well right now, and this is why, but I'm working on it, and whatever. That's empowering, that's uplifting, but it's also like putting yourself out there in a way where people are not going to discredit that. That's the issue when you post a selfie about it, is that most people, even if that's genuine, most people are not going to read that as genuine. They're going to discredit you and say you're doing this for attention. Whereas if you make a post that's very personal and genuine, then I don't think people are going to have that same reaction.
I think that a way to battle that is, for me personally, when I was struggling with the whole depression thing, it was really important to find a group of people that I could just be real with. And for some people, it might be a podcast or it might be like a church group or whatever. But it's really important that you find a group of people or even like a counselor or something where you can just be real with what you're going through. And that was really important for me. Like I'm in that group now where we just talk about our life and what's going on. So just finding solid people in your life where you can be honest and real and feel like you're not being judged is like key to overcoming those thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, that you're right. I 100% agree. I would say it's difficult to find that.
Yeah, it is.
But at the same time, you do need to look for it, you know. And so I that's a really, really great point for people.
Pee.
Yeah, go for it.
I literally drank all this water, guys. I have to pee.
That's what you wrote on my notepad. I was like, that's why you were saying something really deep, and I'm like trying not to laugh because I'm just like,
no, you're fine.
The pressure of it. Yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say. But.
Yeah, and I think that what we want to go with this, I like what you said before. I've already said this, but I like what you said when you talked about how, yeah, I understand that not everyone thinks the way I do, but you can change the way that you think, right? And I think that that's a great thing to highlight with all of these things. I think that there's also kind of I don't know if it's a stigma, but maybe I think it's easy to kind of understand or think with social media how, like, okay, if I post this, maybe someone else is supposed to fix this, or maybe eventually this is supposed to kind of work itself out, or I'll grow out of this. And I don't think that's always the case with depression, anxiety, PTSD. I can only speak on those things. I'm sure, I can't speak on other mental illnesses because those are the things that I've experienced myself. Right. And I can tell you that I went through those things. And this ended up being largely on depression. Like a lot, we're talking a lot about that, but it's also important to talk about that with social media because it affects people so directly. But there's things that you can do. But more importantly, overall with social media is, first off, there's things that we can do to maybe there are changes that we need to do with social media from a structural standpoint, maybe. But there's also ways that we can use social media to help people know that they can change their mindset and help make this sort of cultural shift. Culture, that's I remember trying to think of that word. Make a cultural shift away from valuing the physical looks more, valuing some of these other things, like more of the the status symbols, like the cars and all those things, where people feel like that lack, but
that, again, that's like such a deeply rooted personal thing that you have to battle with and figure out why are you valuing these things. A thing to watch, The Social Dilemma on Netflix.
I need to watch that.
So I'm not someone, I think there's a lot of people that watch that and now they realize and they don't like social media and whatever. I've, for a long time, been in this same situation, like thinking the things that we're talking about. But watching that, it was very helpful in terms of like clarifying and putting numbers out on the table. And I'm gonna like sort of halfways quote a number or something, but they were talking about the rate of like specifically teen girl suicide and how just since the introduction of the internet and social media, I mean just like that, like exponential. And I don't remember what the number was, but it's like horrifying.
Yeah.
And so you gotta like it's such a hard thing to try and figure out because you have to, like, do you change the platform or do you change the way that people interact with the platform? You have something like Twitter that's not so dependent on visual, like, thing. I don't have Twitter, but I think it's mostly, like,
I don't
text.
use Twitter either. Yeah, it is mostly text.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's your voice, is, like, saying funny things or not funny things, but, like, that's how you might grow on that platform. Mm-hmm. And then you can think about how could you make platforms that encourage other, like creative endeavors to grow. But on Instagram, people do that. People do create really genuine, interesting content. As musicians, there's a lot of cool musicians that make Instagram-centered content, and I think it's really cool and it's really interesting. Like, how does I'm not a user of TikTok. But what does TikTok do for people mentally? I mean, I hate TikTok. I think it's stupid. Shut up. I think it's so like obnoxious and a lot. But I'll admit, there's like really funny TikToks. Like you've shown me TikToks, and I'm like, that's legitimately hilarious. But it's not something I want to engage in. But how does that? Like, I don't really see the negative like mental effect of TikTok. Is there one? I'm sure there is.
Well, first off, there is the distraction aspect of it, because once you hop on TikTok, it immediately shows you something. Now that's more on like the minutia of it, of like these little things that they try to like get more out of you.
But that's on the structural element of why social media is such a flawed system, is because it's dependent on ad revenue. Mm. And if you wanted to fix that, you would say, like people pay for Spotify or whatever, you'd say, hey, pay $10 a month to join this social media account. Nobody wants to do that because we're not conditioned to pay for social media. So we're used to ads, But also those ads, like the way that they design social media, there's like this phrase or whatever. If it's free, that means you're the product, right? And we are. That's like our attention is the product for ad companies, and that's just the way that social media exists. And you're going to have a really hard time if you just want to change people's behaviors or convince them they should pay for social media.
There are channels on TikTok, for instance, that do these shorts that are on mental health, or they're on like finance, or so they use as an educational platform.
I learn a lot from TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. You absolutely can. And so there's
I learned a lot of really funny dances from TikTok.
No,
I
learned No, there's so much stuff you can learn.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
there's also a big
legitimately,
issue with fake gurus
Life
on
hacks.
TikTok too. Like
There's
fake
issues with fake
entrepreneur
gurus everywhere,
gurus.
man,
There's like finance people.
they've just migrated. They've migrated to TikTok, right?
Yeah.
Can I challenge a thought for you
Yes,
guys really quick?
please challenge a thought.
So before you've like health. What is the word? Fixed health and no, that's not a word. Worked on your relationship with social media, right? What is like the first thing that you do in the morning? Is check your social media, go on your phone.
That is something that is so important to stop.
Isn't that crazy? Like our alarm clocks are on our phone, and that's just going to tempt us to want to use our phones more. So, go ahead.
That is something that I try and work on by like I was running every day, but then I had issues with my shins, so now I run every other day.
Lame.
I'm trying to get back up to every day. My shins are getting a little better. Not shin splints, but like bone things. Not fun.
Bone
You've got bone
spurt.
things going on.
Yeah, bone things going on. But I would do a thing where like I wasn't allowed to go on social media until after I would run in the morning.
Yeah.
And that's something I still do like on running days. But that is something like setting amounts of time, like spending 4 hours awake before you go on social media. And it's tempting. It's so tempting to go on, but it's like the same thing with eating junk food a lot of times. Like the anticipation of it is better than the actual, like you'll feel like, oh yeah, I should go and go eat fast food or whatever the heck. And then you go and do it, and it's like, after you eat it, you're like, oh wow, I don't feel good. Shouldn't do that. But then the next time it's like that feeling of the excitement of it overpowers the knowledge you have of how it makes you feel.
Right.
Same thing with social media. Like you get like, oh, I bet there's probably something I should go and like probably somebody like texted me or something.
It's muscle memory, you know.
Because I don't have notifications either, which I don't even know if that's a good thing. Because for me, then I have the anticipation of, well, what if somebody did text me? Like, and I
better check.
Yesterday, I didn't have my phone on me for like 2 hours because I was like mentoring this group of girls, and I looked at my phone thinking like, man, everyone's gonna want to hit me up. And I looked at my phone. Domino's was the only person that texted me. They're like, you want a piece of pizza right now. I was like, wow, I'm not cool, I guess. So
I don't know that I ever received texts from Domino's.
It's okay. It's not actually Domino's. The name is only titled Domino's. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But
it's Domino's.
Okay, but seriously though, that is a really great point to bring up. And actually, when like something that I have been working on in the past, especially intense in the past couple of months, and more generally over the past year or so, is trying to figure out all the things that I did specifically to help me a lot. Right. And one of those things was definitely, first off, not falling asleep with the phone in your hand.
Yes.
And the second thing is not checking it right when you wake up.
Yes.
It's having that time. So first off, when you go to sleep and you're particularly focusing on things, right? So something else I noticed, and I talked to you about this actually, is when I fell asleep and I was like, oh, I'm so exhausted, I wouldn't be surprised if I slept, if I snoozed the alarm, right? If I had a negative attitude going to bed, I found that I was much more likely to snooze my alarm or get back into bed.
That's so powerful.
Yeah, so that's one of those things.
You're setting that preconceived notion already.
So, exactly. So that's one of those things of needing to work on that. And also, another comment. I feel bad for going back to depression, but it's important to kind of, I think, draw the connections where they are, and that another sort of symptom that kind of goes along with that isn't the more well-known one is your sleep schedule.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to stay up late on social media, and then if you have school, you have to get up early anyways, right? And so now you're on less sleep. And then all of a sudden you're not functioning very well. And if you're not functioning very well, then you're going to lose those mental battles a lot easier. Right. And you're going to succumb to your subconscious. And so it's kind of like this small thing, but it's actually a small thing that's a big thing. You know?
So
go ahead.
A big part of like trying to build new habits is you don't try and implement something new or remove something. You change you switch out that habit.
Yes,
so
exactly,
a big habit that I think
100%.
everybody has nowadays is you go and you turn your lights off, and then you need to do something to like fall asleep, right?
Yep.
So I would say I used to try and I would read a book before I went to bed, but it was super annoying because I'd get in bed, I'd read, and then I had to get out of bed, walk across my room, turn my lights off, and whatever, right? So best solution
Bro,
is...
just get Alexa.
Best solution? No,
Yeah,
seriously.
the clapper.
A Kindle.
The clapper.
Like a Kindle is awesome because that's what I do now to go to bed is like a Kindle Paperwhite, so it doesn't hurt my eyes or anything like that. It's not blue light or anything. But I can turn my lights off, and then I can just go and read until I'm tired and I want to go to bed. But that's like a super small thing that went from like reading before bed was really hard, and I didn't want to do it because I'd have to get out of bed and then turn the lights off and get back in bed. It's just that small barrier, and it doesn't feel the same because the lights aren't out. And I think that's a big thing is like the lights are out, you're in your bed, and then it's like, oh, I'm going to watch something on YouTube, or I'm going to like go through social media on my phone or whatever.
Guilty.
You just replace it by getting a freaking Kindle Paperwhite that you can read in the dark, and boom. I mean, I'm not even joking. Like that has been like one of the best just habit switches. Is I'm not changing the habit of wanting to be stimulated by something in the dark before I go to bed. I mean, there's other solutions to that, but the Kindle is a really
Anyways.
Okay, so seriously, for anybody out there, Kindle, fantastic thing to invest in for like changing. You're not changing your action. You're changing like the sort of sub element of that action.
Right.
Is you're just replacing the phone with like a different thing that you can lay in bed and like interact with.
You need to stop.
So something that I
don't know how else to phrase that.
Shut up. So something that
I'm sorry.
So something that I going off of that, which was difficult, is like feeling like I need to scroll or look at something before I go to bed. I actually like went out and bought an alarm clock.
No way. That's
yeah,
nuts.
so that I didn't use the alarm clock on my phone. Now, was it sustainable? No. Did it work for the time being?
You tried it.
Yeah. Did it work for the time being? Yes, it did. But the thing that I couldn't figure out how to use it.
They're complicated.
Yeah, they're really complicated.
Yeah, I mean, it's very antiquated system. These
It
alarm
wouldn't
clocks,
wake me
so
up, okay? It was like too quiet. So.
Oh, really?
Use a laptop.
That's what I use now is my laptop because my phone won't wake me up.
So I got an app on my phone, and it's this app where when you set the alarm clock, you have to do 3 math problems in order to set the alarm clock off or turn it off.
I would wake everybody up in the house.
Yeah, so I sit there and I'm like, okay, my brain's trying to wake up.
1 plus 1.
4 be 5.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I've been doing that. It really wakes me up. Also setting like screen time limits on your phone. Those are helpful.
That's cool.
I got to a point where obviously I use my phone for like business and like I have a fitness app that I use, so it's on a lot of the time when I'm working out. But I got my screen time down to like an hour and a half a day, which
that's
is
awesome.
which is really.
And to me, like that's better than I know. That last time I checked, I was probably at 2 hours or something.
I think I'm about like seven. Maybe it averages out to being, basically an hour a day. I think.
And
yeah.
For me, another thing that's helped with that is I have the actual thing that I have service on is a light phone, which like you can't use for anything other than like listening to music, podcasts, or texting and calling.
Yeah.
So if I want to go out and I want people to have the ability to talk to me, I can bring that. Or if I want to go out and I just want to like, because the music situation there is you have to have the MP3s downloaded, and I don't like to pirate music, so I'll like go on Bandcamp, buy an album, download it.
You
put
are
it on the
such a
light phone.
good person.
I used to pirate a shit ton of music.
I
dude.
can pirate
But
movies.
I don't like to do that. So, but I also have Spotify. So
We're gonna come
sometimes
for
if
you.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to listen to X, Y, and Z music, then I'll bring my iPhone, but I won't bring my light phone. So then I don't have any sorts of like connection, so nobody can get in touch with me. And that's something I think is super funny with my dad.
Yeah.
Is he doesn't have a cell phone or anything like that because he hates the fact that people can get in touch with him, but he always gets super annoyed. He's like, "You're not answering your phone when I'm trying to call you." And like last night he was like calling me, and I was like, "Oh, my phone, my light phone's dead. You can't get in touch with me." He's like, "Well, that's really annoying," and I'm like,
Well, you're the one who's always complaining about cell phones, but okay.
dad things, you know."
So there's a lot of ways that we can overcome these hurdles when it comes to social media, for sure. I think that we all have like a lot of good ideas. This is a good conversation.
Yeah, it is a good conversation. See, I like these things because it's directed towards a positive thing of
Yeah.
like, I get it, social media is the devil, but like, what do I do?
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's important to give this. That's not what we're saying, by the way.
No.
But
There's a lot of
it's
positives.
important to have a positive direction for the energy that we're kind of building up.
We even
Good.
talked about this when we were going to start the podcast because I was like, man, I talked to you. I was like, I think I should get an Instagram back to like talk about the podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I don't want, like, why do people care about what I have to say? Like, we talked about this a bunch.
We did.
And ultimately I decided, okay, it's probably a good thing, like, as long as you keep that positive element. But that's another thing is, like, to not be afraid to be positive. Because if it's coming from, like, a genuine place in your heart and something you really care about, it shines through way more than, like, you don't sound like you're a guru who's just, like, whatever, because I know that's a thing of like just being like overly positive and whatever. But a great example would be Anna Wagner, the photographer. She like is just incredibly positive on Instagram, and it doesn't come across as disingenuous in any way, shape, or form. This is a person that really cares about photography. She really cares about spirituality and religion. She really cares about her friends. Another guy, Sam Solomon, is an awesome guy that I follow, and he's also a photographer, and just his message and his voice is very positive and interesting, and it's just a fantastic thing for me, at least, to
Our timer turned off. There you go. Good.
Observe.
Yeah, to observe. And it's not that I don't care about the things that he cares about, but I care that he cares about things, and that makes me happy, and it makes me want to care about things, even if it's not the same thing. Like, I don't really care about photography, but two of my favorite people that I follow are both photographers. I don't know why. They're just really positive and awesome people to hear from, and I enjoy hearing about their passion and their craft, even if it's not something that
I think that you can sit here, well, the most important thing is recognizing that there's a problem. That's the first step to resolution. So we obviously recognize that there's a problem. Now, like, what can we do to solve that, which is what we've been getting into. But I think that it's a beautiful thing where we, as collectively, like, we're all kind of the same age group. We can all agree that, hey, there's a lot of bad things with this certain platform or whatever, but we're looking for the positives as well and trying to overcome adversity with this. So it's cool. It's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And just, I mean, you touched on the habits, and you touched on what you just touched on, is that like getting in the habit of saying, and we talk about this when we start a podcast, right? When we're planning this out, is saying, okay, with social media, I think everyone understands that there's things that people don't like about social media, right? Yeah. And it can be a very bad thing. It can also be a good thing, right? But let's talk about those things. Let's talk about the bad, but then let's end it with a positive.
Right.
Because if you end it with a negative, then everyone's going to walk away and be like, oh man, well, I guess social media sucks and I spend all my time on it, so I guess I suck, you know? Right. And so, like, I know it's a crazy generalization, but the point is that, you know, not only using that in like discussions with this, but also like self-talk, for instance. This is just getting off into my own little territory here of like when you're talking to yourself or when you're on social media, and if you're sharing, because you also brought up, hey, I'm dealing with something, you know, like, and then like asking for advice, like, what would you guys do in this situation or something, you know, like ending it on, hey, I'm open to advice here, you know, here's a door to interaction, because I think that might be the real, you know, downside with posting purely negative content is there's no doorway to interaction there
other than for people to validate your negativity.
Exactly. So ending on a, hey, I'm having a hard time. This is a way that, you know, I can be supported right now or something like that, you know. Yeah. So just ending it on a positive note there, right? And so I think that's really, really valuable. Do you guys have any other things to add? We talked about social media, the downsides, the upsides. We also talked about not only those things, what we think about it, but also ideas for how not only we can change social media potentially in the future, but also how people can treat social media differently, how people can better themselves as they use that. Would you guys add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, my final point, I guess, would just be that, like, if you're genuinely a positive person and you have a positive, genuine message that you want to share, not being afraid to share that because of how people might think about you. Because I know in all the situations on social media when I've, like, been, like I wouldn't have to question. If I'm going to post a picture of me, you know, playing guitar at a show, I'd just be like, yo, what's up? Playing guitar at a show. Here's a post of it. But if I'm, like, really formulating and thinking out, like, a very genuine thing that I want to say, that's, like, the thing that I have the most trouble with posting. But always the thing that merits like the greatest responses and just like the best positive impact, because I have like every time I've decided to like go out on a limb and like say something like, I don't know, get on my soapbox or whatever, and like make something that's really genuine and that's a lot deeper than like, hey, check out this guitar riff I just wrote or whatever. Which still, I love seeing stuff like that. I love seeing that like creative end of things. But that's always received for me, or that's always been the most impactful for me, like the things that are the most difficult to put out there. As well as like, I think every time I've done that, I've had at least a single person message me and say, wow, this really changed my perspective. I'm going to start doing this now, or I'm going to stop doing that. And so for me, and it's always been at least one person, and that's like so cool, is that you can just post something random, something that you're thinking about, like the Seeking Discomfort post that I made on my Instagram. That like merited some positive responses from people messaging me and saying, hey, as well as just some like advice. Destiny, who watches the podcast, she has sent me something about the like the 2-day rule and how she uses that for certain habits, and I was like, oh, you know, that's really awesome. I should implement
our blast, bro. What the hell?
Yeah. I was like that was something that I received. Was I received people saying, hey, this helped me, and also people saying, hey, if you're struggling with, you know, sticking to habits or X, Y, or Z, here's something that I use that could help you, right? So I don't know, just being genuine, and if you're being genuine and you're doing it for the right reason, then you shouldn't be afraid of like posting things that are overly positive or negative, but with a positive, like you said, a positive twist or spin or whatever.
I have 2 final things to add to that. First of all, about being who you are and saying what you want to say. I actually wrote this down. I said, embrace who you are. Don't be afraid to be weird. Social media puts everything in a box. People feel the need to live up to this standard of how to act, think, and look. Just be original. Everyone is unique and wonderfully made in their own way. So that's similar to what you're saying. Second of all, I obviously had said that I had Facebook, but I don't really post on Facebook a lot. I only post something if I really feel like passion or something I want to put out there. And at the beginning of this year, I actually had wrote like another thing here. I'm not going to share everything, but it was about things that I was wanting to do in 2020. So I had all these goals written down here. And obviously you had talked in your last podcast, like a lot of the things that you wanted to do the plans had gotten broken because of the coronavirus and everything. And I had wrote this super, super, super long paragraph about what I learned and how I felt. And if I were to post a picture of like me and my family, I wouldn't have been nervous to post that. But I was nervous to post what I was going to post because it was so vulnerable and so deep and so raw about how I was feeling. And I was afraid of what people were going to think of me. But then I'm like, this is positive, and if one person can get something out of this, like, it'll be worth it. And I posted like this really long paragraph, and I got so much positive responses from it, and I was like, wow, that just goes to show, just be yourself. And
but that's the cool thing, is it's genuine positivity, not fake copy paste comments.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's such a huge difference between that sort of positive feedback and positive feedback that's not, genuine like that.
Absolutely. People crave an authentic connection. And when you put your best foot forward and you say, listen, I'm really freaking nervous to share this, but it's on my heart and I really feel like I need to. And then someone reads that and be like, oh my God, I thought I was the only one. You know, like you're going through that too. And then all of a sudden there's comments being like, yes, me too. Be like, oh my gosh, now we have this little mini community of everyone that's going through these same issues, and we feel so much better because other people are at a different stage of that, and like, this girl over here is actually like a year ahead on this, and she's doing so much better, and that means I can do better in that now. So that's one of the really amazing things that social media can bring. Do you guys have anything else?
No.
Awesome. My last closing thing is to don't compare your day one to someone else's year 3, Like, social media, it's so easy to go and see Drake, who just played, has been playing guitar for 3 years. And like, oh man, I've been playing guitar for like 2 days, and like, I suck at this, Be like, dude, like, if you would share, be like, hey, I just started guitar. I'm super excited. You know, I know what I'm playing doesn't sound very good, but like I'm really excited to start, you know?
Yeah.
Like that has just as much value as you saying, hey, I've been playing for 3 years and here's this song I wrote yesterday, you know? Like, dude, there's so many, when you said that to me, and I said it to I said it to one sister and be like, yeah, you just wrote it randomly one day, right?
Oh, Clover.
Awesome. Clover, man. Great song. But back to the whole thing of not comparing your day one to someone else's day 100 or whatever it is, right? And it's just so important because it's so easy for us to say like, oh, this person looks so good and I look like this, you know. But like they've been working on it for years, decades in a lot of cases,
actually
right?
An empowering thing for you.
Exactly. And so it's so easy to look at that and have the focus of like, this is what I lack, right? But instead look at that and say, okay, how can I start that now? You know, like what are the steps today for me to start that? If this is something that I really see as important for me, that I want to implement in my life. Maybe you do want to get skinnier. Maybe you want to bulk up, you know, but you see that, and you see someone who's achieved something that you want to achieve, you start working towards it, right? And you look at that and see it as a goal rather than feeling bad, you know, and using it as an excuse to say, well, I guess I'm never going to be able to achieve that, you know? So that's just kind of my thing. Something that's really helped me a lot is realizing that everyone is in their own journey, you know.
It's a process.
And then, it's a process. And also just like you highlighted, I'm so glad that you said that. As far as like, you know, you're going to post something that's kind of authentic and something that's really near and dear to your heart. You know, maybe you always played the jock part, right? You know, but like you really love model trains. I know some people that have no. I know some people that have some sick. I'm not into model trains. I know some people that have some sick model train collections. You know, they have a separate room, right? If they would post stuff about model trains and not some inauthentic crap about football, right? Then they would come across so much more authentic, and their crew, right? Those people that would be like, okay, the people that don't like model trains, they'll sift out, right? But then the people that do, they'll come and be like, dude, this is sick.
I should really start posting about my lightsaber collection.
Exactly. But here's the thing. If you're posting about crap that you don't actually like, you know, if you're just playing a part, and then they comments and be like, yeah, dude, you're sick. You're the best quarterback ever. But it's like, dude, I don't really like that.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to get that positive emotional feedback when somebody compliments you.
And that's the exact thing that I was talking about with like the photographers that I follow that I think are so incredible and awesome to watch. Is that I don't care about photography, but I care about people who care about things. So that's the model train thing. If I had someone who loved model trains, like, or like I'm not super artistic, but I have a friend, Lily Riddle, shout out, who posts about who posts so many pictures of her art and made like a specific art account, and it's so cool to see that. I suck at painting. I'm not good at painting, and I don't particularly want to be good at painting. But I see that and I'm like, okay, wow, that person has their craft, their skill that they're working on, and that's so cool. And I'll even translate that into something else, like, oh wow, she's working so hard on her paintings. I should go work hard on this song I want to make, or this person's putting so much effort into these, you know, photo shoots with all these cool people, these video shoots. I should go work on that song that I've been procrastinating on working on, or the trains, you know, like you can translate anybody else's passion for anything that's completely unrelated to your own and use that as like a catalyst for positive change or motivation.
So y'all are special. Y'all have purpose and value and meaning.
Everyone is a snowflake.
Everyone's a snowflake? I was just trying to be nice.
Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching the Drake and Josh podcast. I've been Josh, still am Josh. You're Drake.
Yep.
I'm Adalie.
And that's Adalie. Exactly, guys. Thank you so much for watching.
Y'all, if you want me to guest again, let me know. I'll do it. I'll do it. You think I won't? I'll do it.
She'll do it. Please let us know down below what you liked and maybe some ideas as well, because, you know, we want to gear this towards a positive direction, because we don't want to just complain about things that we don't like about social media. We want to say, okay, yeah, there's things, we all realize that there might be issues, but we want to create a positive direction for it. So let us know down below maybe a positive direction that you guys have for social media, maybe either a change to the structure or maybe a change to how you think that people should use that as well. So those are just kind of two things. So absolutely comment down below. And anything else?
No, we're good.
All right, awkward time where I find the stop button.